Hey, we want to welcome everybody. We're here doing a special video for Elevate Collective about youth camps as part of our Youth Camp Survival Pack. And so today we have some youth camp experts in the house with us, some fellow partners in crime in youth ministry. I'm going to introduce them to you, and we're going to talk a little bit about our experiences at youth camp, what it's like, and some of the things we've seen and done, maybe some things no one knows we've done at camp. So let me introduce everybody and we'll get rolling. First of all, this is Gaius from Emmanuel Assembly of God, the man with the hair. And this is Sam from Christ Methodist, my good friend Matt from Covenant Evangelical Free Church. They've all been in youth ministry for a while, but varying degrees of experience in camps and stuff. So in this room, the greatest minds of youth ministry have gathered to tell you the wisdom of the ages about youth camps. No, just kidding. Well, let's kick this off. I thought we'd just talk a little bit about what youth camp's like. Youth camp's a huge part of youth ministry. I love youth camp, kind of love, hate it. It's like a lot of work, kind of tiring. But I was thinking about that as a youth leader. Like if you don't like youth camp, you're really struggling, as a youth leader. So what is it that you love most about youth camp for yourself?
I would say it's like the gathering of people. It's just fun when you're with young people, and it's especially the last night. It's always about the last night.
Yeah, the last night.
That's like the peak of it. Everyone, it's either a bonfire or people are just going wild and crazy and uncontrollable in a good way. Always a good way.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
The last nights are legendary.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Sam? What do you love about youth camp?
I think it's like the biggest part of your calendar. It's like when everyone looks forward to it. Everyone is just really geared up for camp, and the energy is there. Everyone's excited about it. I think it's just the part where you get everybody together as a ministry. It just feels huge in the year.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love youth camps because of the time. The kids have, you think about it.
It's true.
The average kid here in Singapore, at least, they spend about 60 hours a week just on school-related activities, responsibilities, tuition. And an average Christian would spend about 4 to 6 hours in church. So you look at the timing.
Wow.
You don't have much time in a week with the kids. And they don't have time to build relationships with their peers and so on. So being at camp, it redeems time. It redeems the relationships that you build. And best of all, they get to hear from the Lord. It's time that you won't get in a normal week. And,
it's true.
And so that's what I love about it. It's the time.
Yeah, it's true. Because even on Sunday service, they're in, they're out. They just feel like even in the 2 hours that they give you, they're not even fully there. Some of them are on their phones and stuff. But when you take them out of camp, it just feels so immersive. It's a full experience. You're there, and the mindset's different as well. You're living in it's a complete atmosphere, I think.
It's just fully, you have their full attention for that time. It's kind of amazing what young people can do when you give your full attention to something. And for that week, you got their full attention. That's right. I know a lot of people talk about camp hype. It kind of annoys me a little bit. That's one of my pet peeves. I don't want that camp hype. Whatever. And I was thinking, I don't believe in camp hype, but I believe in life-changing moments with God. And I think anytime you give God your 100% focus and attention, something really dramatic happens in your life. So for me, camp's been those moments where, hey, God has your complete attention. And like you said, everyone's gathered together, the whole ministry together, focused on that. And it's amazing what God can do in that little bit of time, just transform lives. I was changed at a youth camp. That's where I felt God really called me into ministry. It changed my life. 14 years old. My life was never the same because of that one youth camp moment. Youth camps are amazing. What does it look like in your church? What's your youth camp like? Let's hear from you guys a bit. How long is it? Or I don't know how you guys run it. We do usually maybe 4 nights of camp. Sometimes we got to do 5, which I don't recommend, but it's a long story. But when we have to, we do 5 nights of camp, and you pretty much want to die after that. But we do. But we'll do 4 nights. No, sorry, not 5 nights. We do 4 nights or 3 nights. Yeah, 3 nights is better. Yeah, that's why you were looking. You look terrified. I was trying to figure out. Yeah, 5 days, 4 nights when we have to, but we prefer to do 3 nights, 4 days, and we basically just do like a session every morning, a session every night, you know, kind of thing. Unless it's the longer camp, then we kind of mix it up. Games are like a big part of our camp. I don't know how it looks like for you guys. Everyone has their own kind of like camp flow. I know a friend of mine refuses to do more than 1 session per day at camp. Like he just believes that it's ungodly to like have more than 1 service every day, and so that's just how his camp kind of rolls. But yeah, what's it like for you guys? How does camp look?
Ours is we tried 5. We tried 4 nights before.
Yeah.
Once.
Yeah, it's
and
brutal.
only once. I think we just almost died after that. So we went back to 4 days, 3 nights. So we kick off on the morning itself. For a few times, we started camp with an amazing race.
Oh,
So
It's always that way.
yeah, so
Save on transport.
So in a packing list, bring $2 for transport or EasyLink card. So they meet in church and then they do this amazing race to the campsite.
Yeah.
So we did that for about 2 to 3 camps as a lead up. But so we switched it up last year because we felt one, we kept repeating it got a bit boring. 2, after the amazing race, when they get into camp, they're a bit too tired to. Everyone just wants to settle down, and so you don't get to open up the camp. So what we did was we thought last year we did a camp where we wanted to have just a really proper opening, and so we scrapped the amazing race. We did a bus. We got them to the campsite. No, we didn't have a bus. Our campsite was opposite. It was at St. Patrick's School opposite our church. So they walked over. Yeah, they walked over, and we opened it with a session with worship, and then so we usually have.
And they usually stay in the campsite, in school,
so overnight
or something, or
in the school campus. So it was an overnight stay. It was big dorms, so we had. One big one for the guys, one big one for the girls. And they just slept on the floor, so we had mattresses on the floor that school provided. And we had games. I think only one of the days we had 2 sessions. The rest of it was all-night sessions. Yeah. I think the kids also, not all of them can take 2 sessions in one day. So.
Yeah. So just games like all day until the next session? How does that work?
It is mostly games, yeah. I think we had games in the morning and then some fellowship time, maybe do breakout discussions where they get to share, because we had devotional materials we did that for the campus. So they get to do their personal devotion in the morning. When they wake up, there's a devo time, and then during the day they have a time to gather in their groups to discuss. Yeah, so our camps have groupings as well. Yeah.
For games and devotions,
everything. For everything,
Yeah.
so that it helps facilitate the discussions. It's a bit smaller group.
Yeah. Cool.
For mine, last year is our first time we did a 5-day 4-night. It's crazy. It's not advisable, but the kids really liked it. Yeah, so we have to now. So this year we probably are going to do it again. 5-day 4-night.
Wow.
Yeah,
God bless you.
Yeah, so the key is to hire more leaders. Newer, younger leaders.
To pay people.
I'm just kidding. But and so last year, our structure of our camp is always 2 sessions a day. 1 in the morning, 1 at night, including devotion. But the first day, we always start the night service as the big one. Yeah. So just similar as yours, we always start off with an amazing race. Yeah. But last year, because we thought it's always the same thing, and so we added in something fun. We said, okay, we're going to give you the clues early. But if you guys can't bring your bags to this place by 1 p.m., you're carrying your bags all the way to the campsite.
That's awesome.
And they did. A lot of parents complained, but well, that's part of the youth ministry, So and it's always wild. My youth camps are always wild, and the kids actually dwell in His presence so much more. And because of that, they didn't want to leave the altar and stuff. I think our focus for camp and our structure is much more service based, because our kids are quite bonded in school. Our cell groups are on school system, and so they all know each other. So our focus is interact with each other and interact with God. And so that's our main structure of camp. But 5 days, 4 nights is
Yeah, it's
long.
intense.
It's intense, intensely good though.
That's good. That's good. I think for us, it really depends on the purpose.
Yeah.
Whether it's fun, or it's family, or it's faith building. So if it's fun, it's just games. And we've done camps before, which are more outreach in orientation. So it's all just fun. And there are so-called moral lessons they learn. But then the last night, he says, and the last day, we do introduce Christ and what he's done. And so because of the relationship that's built, in all the fun, you want to start off slow and not do too much fun, otherwise the person is like, you whack me like that, and you just get into really building that relationship, and that's what makes it so fun. So for a fun one, you ease them into the gospel.
Yeah.
For the family one, because they're closer and you can get away with more things, So one of the camps we've done before was 5 days, but 4 nights. It's an urban expedition here in Singapore. So they have to walk 50 kilometers. So they've got the full packs on. Like,
Wow.
It's amazing.
Wow.
It's army. So you have the safety car. The kids have to walk. You push them hard during the night. Set up tents. Sleep during the day. And it's to build the relationship within the youth fellowship. It's family, and it builds faith as well, because you have to throw in God there. God will help you. God will give you strength. So they have a lot of fun. The faith building one has a mixture of elements. It's not just fun. There's a lot of time, like you said, Gaius, a lot of time at the altar. A lot of time, self-reflection. We give. The older the kids are, the more of silence and solitude they can get when they go off to some place where they can't be disturbed, no phone reception, so on. So it really depends on the purpose. But at the end of the day, we want them to encounter God. We want them to experience the power of Jesus and the Spirit, and let the Spirit of God do His work.
Yeah, cool. That's cool. I think, so you guys do like a different type of camp potentially every year, depending what you want to hit. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and for different types of people. So we do quite a few camps.
Okay,
so it's intense.
So not just one camp a year, you may do multiple camps with different aims. Okay, that's interesting. We do one every year like that. We started doing 5 day, 4 night camps because we overlap now with our church camp, which is 5 day, 4 nights. So like we can't send the kids back till the parents are back to unlock the house. so we by default I had to start stretching the camps. But for us, we actually really emphasize, we have a couple sessions a day, but I think probably the biggest thing at our camp is, not the biggest, but one of the major components is actually the games and the social aspect for us, because I think we're quite an intense youth ministry. We're pretty heavy on services, on spiritual things all the time. And so camp became something where, hey, we really want to pump that. It's not the services take a backseat to it. We have really significant services at camp, but we don't overload it. We just do the 1 in the morning, 1 at night. But we give a lot of emphasis to the games where, some camps I go to, it's almost like they planned all the service, but the game's kind of an afterthought. It's just haphazard and, whatever. But we try to put as much energy as we can to make it just unforgettable, because for us, that's something significant. And our church is in multiple locations, so some of these kids don't see each other that often actually, and they don't have that, which would be a little different than like if they're all in campus groups together. So camp is that time to bring them together. So for us, that became like something significant. And I think when we do well with the games, we actually end up with a better spiritual result, in our camp. Like it unlocks something in their heart. They're kind of a little more open. They have great time with their friends, and they just kind of let their guard down, and they're more receptive to what the Lord wants to do later in the sessions. Interesting to see how different churches run. Everyone's got kind of their own thing. Let me ask you this. Let's shift a little bit. What's like one of your greatest camp memories? Youth camp's all about memories, and there's definitely got to be some great moments in camp. But for you, what would be one of your greatest camp memories?
As a participant or?
I think either. Yeah, I've got a couple, but I don't know. Like wow. I remember one year we. I think our theme, like our games theme, was like something would do with superheroes, or I don't really remember, but every group had like a mascot. They had to dress them up like a superhero. So there was Wolverine and Batman and Spider-Man. I don't know what it was. And they were dressed up, and some of them were pretty funny. And I don't know, I got kind of inspired at the end of the game session or something. And I told them like I'd give them like an extra 1,000,000 points if like their mascot like kept his costume on like the whole rest of the day, like through the whole session. So I remember it was like the last night of camp, I think, and it was really heating up. I mean, worship was powerful. It was this moment where like, you know, everybody was just lost in worship. And I'm there as the youth pastor, just like, this is amazing. And I look at, you know, sometimes you just kind of look at your camp, like what's going on right now. And I look and I'm like, man, kids are raising their hands. And here was like Wolverine with his hands up, and Batman, and, you know, whatever. And it was just so funny, like, but they were so earnest, you know, like really seriously worshiping, dressed up as superheroes. I think that was one of my highlights, like that kind of crazy stuff that you just would never do normally, you know, in church. That was definitely one of my top 10 moments.
Give me 1,000,000 points.
Yeah, just for the points. Anything for points. Yeah. I don't know. How about you guys? You got a favorite memory?
I think I've got a couple. The very first youth camp I ever did, many years ago, 16 years ago, we had the Boys Brigade ministry, very much involved in our church at that time. And so we invited all the boys and girls in. So we had over 100 pre-believers at this camp. And all we did, it was called Soul Survivor. All we did was play games. So we went from the easy ones, from scissor, paper, stone, all the way just throwing water at people and just saying, we bless you.
Them.
You know, just beat them and, you know, make them like to nothing. And it was so fun.
Wow.
And then that night, and the Christian youth were there. In those days, the youth was very small. But it was interesting because they said, where's the worship? Where's the worship? And usually on Sunday, when it came to worship, these kids would just talk. So they were asking for worship. And so we had worship. And we had one of the boys share his testimony. And then there was an altar call. And all 110 pre-believers came forward. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. Because this is the first camp I've ever done. And to this day, some of them are still in our church leading now. And I still remember that moment because you could see how real God was, well, the impact of the camp, the relationships, just the real relationships. That was one of my greater memories.
How about this? Biggest youth camp fail? What do you think? What's your have you had a fail youth camp? I've had a few fail moments. Honest youth pastors have fail moments. I remember we had a game. We got these chickens, and we had like, we were in Malaysia, and it's hard to explain how this happened, but we had like 15, 18 games groups, and so it was hard to get them all in one place. But we had them all lined up on the beach, and we gave every group a chicken, and then we said like, okay, at the count of 3. Like, you're gonna put your chicken on the ground and you gotta get him to go from point A to point B, you know, but you can't touch him. Like, you can just try to guide your chicken, you know, like you just can't touch him. And so we bought these chickens from some village somewhere in Malaysia. And so the youth were pumped and whatever. And then they all put down their chickens and everyone started screaming, and the chickens, like, I think 2 chickens just took off running, like just like randomly. One went in the water, one went in the forest, like, these youth ran off trying to find their chicken, and the rest of them just kind of sat down and they wouldn't move. And you have kids like right next to their chicken screaming at it, you know, chickens just sitting there. And we didn't realize these chickens were like, they were raised just to be killed, to eat. And so they'd been in a cage like their whole life. They'd never really walked around. So these chickens like don't move. And we had hyped it up like so big, you know, before that moment. And then the chickens, they looked kind of diseased and, you know, stuff. And they didn't really move. And then we just make something up like, okay, grab your chicken and run, you know. And eventually what happened is everyone just felt bad for their chicken because they looked so like sickly and whatever. And after the session, you had people like kind of just consoling their chicken, like feeling bad for it. And it was probably like the worst thing we ever did. Like, it just totally failed in every way. Because the youth were so pumped about it, but it didn't really come through. That was a pretty major fail game for us. Yeah, I don't know. Have you got a good fail?
There's one camp we plan. We always have war games. I'm not sure if you guys have it. So there's one camp we have at St. John's Island, and so the whole island is ours. And we planned the game so far apart, the war game, that people just fell asleep while doing the game. And so like each person's base was so far apart they couldn't find each other, and people just fell asleep. And so the flags were just stolen because people were sleeping at their flag. So yeah, that was the biggest fail. We were like, why did we even do that? We didn't even plan it. We didn't even like look through it. And so people had to walk like through the slopes and the forest and everything just to get to another person. And so it was so hilarious. We were just like, what are we thinking? Yeah.
That's funny, man.
And through that camp, we also planned this like little boot camp retreat thingy on an afternoon. And well, that is bad planning because we thought that okay, the kids can cook their lunch.
Wow.
They can't cook their lunch. So we ended up like we had to prepare a huge dinner because we were like, we're so hungry. And we're like, oh no, you poor thing. And we had to like cook for them their food that they didn't cook and stuff like that. Yeah, it was hilarious. That camp itself was pretty fail.
That's awesome.
It's quite funny.
Yeah, at least you're man enough to admit it. Let's wrap up this way. A couple of things here. Okay, what opposite of fail? What's worked for you in running camps? Maybe Sam, like, what do you think? What's some like a key that seems to have worked really well for you guys in putting camp together? Either something you do at camp or leading up to it, or how you approach the planning. But what's helped to like make some of those things successful?
Yeah, there's one thing actually we did last year that I just said, wow, I wish I did that for the past few camps. We had the purpose and the theme of the camp was to build a community. It was so that because there were kind of a few groups that were cliquish in our youth, and we wanted it to just gel everyone together. Youth. We wanted them to just, no matter how different someone you thought would be, you just need to love them because the mark of a disciple is loving one another. So what we did was we took, when we built the team to do camp, we said we would choose just oddballs, just people who wouldn't naturally, they just wouldn't naturally hang out together.
Why am I on the committee? Because
Yeah,
you're weird.
You're
weird.
We chose you because you're weird. So I mean, other than being the team for the camp, they wouldn't have hung out together. And so we built a team of different age groups and different people. And we worked with the camp commandant, and we said that the camp is all about loving one another, is being with one another, really supporting one another. So this team really needs to exemplify that. You need to set that, and before the camp even starts, when they look at the team, they need to feel that. And so we arranged a lot of time together, praying together, suffering together, and planning, and they got really close to one another, the team, and it was really, I would say, the strongest team we've ever had. So when the camp just kicked off, it was just already set, that culture, that it just felt like this. We didn't have to talk so much about why the camp was, being and supporting one another, because they already saw it in the team.
Wow.
And then it just took off. So the whole camp just felt like it was about supporting one another, and I think that was the best thing we ever did, to make sure that the team showed and displayed what the camp was going for. And then from then on, I think it was just I think we won from there on.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. Great insight. Let's wrap up this way. Maybe just we'll go around. Just give some keys to having a great youth camp. Give me like 1, 2, 3 things. Like how do you make your youth camp awesome, even if you got a bad campsite, or like like your game failed. I mean, there are certain things that maybe take it over the edge. What do you think? We'll start with you, Matt, and we'll just go down and kind of wrap up.
I think prayer is very important.
Yeah.
To seek the Lord, because it's all about timing and planning. So just praying through, getting the committee together, spend the first few meetings without doing any planning. Just pray through the aspects. What is the purpose of this camp, and then how do you express it through the program? And of course, the other element is plenty of play. Play was what brings people together. It breaks down the barriers, and it brings out the best and the worst. I like it when it brings out the worst, because then you can talk a lot more about the person.
Cool. Awesome.
Make it about the people.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're planning and you're so focused on getting it right, and sometimes you just need to sit the leadership down and go, who are you talking to? What are some of the great conversations and stories that you heard today at the end of a camp day?
That's
Just,
good.
you know, who did you talk to? What you know, how do you feel about this person's story and stuff like that?
Yeah, not just the event. but
Yeah,
the-
and then
executing the
just think
program.
about what the people are going through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think obedience to the Holy Spirit is very important, especially when you're playing at camp and it's very hectic. It's very hard to hear the voice of God sometimes, and you really need to just be focused on the Holy Spirit and say, okay, what do I do now? Because there's a lot of situations where you gotta cancel stuff and you gotta call things off, and you just need to obey the Holy Spirit and just do it, because that's the ultimate, and it comes through prayer. Yeah, and once you have that, you'll know the access we have in God. You know, we know what access we have into God's kingdom and into the empowerment we have. And one thing I think is very practical is that at the end of the camp, we should always see whether we have used the access to the materials around us, like lights and all. Do we focus too much on that, or do we focus more on God? If there's imbalance, then we need to see we need to see how to balance it off with God being the focus again every single time.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, appreciate you guys taking time
Yeah.
and sitting down to talk about youth camp. Hope it helps a lot of youth pastors and youth leaders out there. Great to hear from you all. Really good responses, and I think it's good to see the different perspectives from different youth ministries. One thing's for sure, camp is awesome.
Yes.
Even though it's tiring, we love camp. And we hope it helps you guys that are tuning in. You can get on to elevatecollective.com and get our whole youth camp survival pack and use it to help you plan your next camp and make it rock. So thank you guys. Until next time, we're signing off.